Hi everyone, welcome to the first ever episode of B2B Unplugged. I'm Scott Poynton and with me is my co-founder Dan Bassett. We are the brains behind Brandtale, a brand new B2B marketing agency and consultancy. And if you're listening to the podcast now, you very well may be the first person to be listening. So we're very happy to have you here. We want this podcast to be a really enjoyable place for B2B content. We're going to really dive deep into the exciting world of B2B. We're going to share insights from being client-side marketers for a very, very long time. We're going to discuss trends, and hopefully we're going to share a few laughs along the way. We're going to be deadly honest. There may be some swearing, but we're very happy that you're here for the ride. So I want to introduce you to Dan Bassett.
Yeah, cool. Thanks, Scott. I'm the other brain, or the other half of the brain, depending which way you want to look at it, for Brandtale. So we decided to start Brandtale earlier this year, and I think it was born out of a similarity in challenges that we both sort of have had for working in the B2B marketing space for over a decade. We've seen sort of almost the exact same story. At very different companies, and we've both worked at sort of multiple companies and seen similar challenges. And I think ultimately the reason to start Brandtale was that we knew that we could deliver better, that clients deserve better from a sort of B2B perspective, and we wanted to bring to market an agency that was sort of truly centered around its clients and helping them to sort of drive growth. And help to tell the stories of some of the great B2B tech businesses that are out there. And help to do all of that great work. So we decided to start Brandtale earlier this year. It's early days still, but it's really exciting. And I think a lot of the sort of early conversations that we're having with people, the challenges are very consistent. And actually a lot of the sort of red flags that we see are equally consistent across marketers from clients. So I think that's one of the first things that we wanted to talk to you about, was sort of some of those challenges that we see and why we think there might be issues and what we would potentially do about those.
Yeah, and there's a ton of red flags. I've worked for a lot of companies, and I've kind of seen it all. Like you say, they've all got the same issues, and I don't know what's stopping them from tackling these issues. I feel like as an industry or as B2B marketers, we should have sorted this stuff out a long time ago, and yet it's still happening. So I don't know where it's going wrong, but loads and loads of red flags. So let's dive into it. And a big one, and I'm sure we all get this on a daily basis, but it's LinkedIn in-mails. What do you make of that, Dan?
Yeah. This one drives me fucking mad. We said that'd be swearing. I apologise. It's. I'm an ex-salesperson. I spent good 5, 6, 7 years working in the sort of sales space, and doing cold sales is really, really difficult. But it's a pain in the backside, and a lot of, I think most of my frustration with in-mails comes out of the lack of care that goes behind it. And that's a variety of things. It's both in the, people are trying to be personalized, but they're not really being personalized, or they're being sort of too personal when they're sending you messages, or trying to be funny or whatever. But equally, it's just a bad tactic. If your tactic is just to cold message somebody who's in a sort of senior position, hope to catch them at a time when they might be in market for something, then you're gonna win maybe less than 1% of the time, just by pure logic. If you accept the logic that most less than 5% of people are probably in market at any one time, and you're sending thousands of in-mails and paying a fortune to do it, it's probably not going to be that successful for you. So it's just a bad strategy in my view.
Yeah, and it's kind of it's the same when you send a connection request to someone, or they send you a request, you accept it, probably because you're trying to get your follower count up, but you immediately get a sales pitch. And there's that meme, I think it's from that chat from The Office. It's like accepts new connection request, and then he's like, oh shit, and there's a person staring him with a sales pitch right away. But it's just all of it is bad. I think one of the biggest things that annoys me about emails and LinkedIn sort of messaging is there's such a lengthy message. Anyway, but I've tried talking about this on LinkedIn quite a few times, but it never really seems to get any traction. But it really annoys me that if it's a long message, when you open the message, it jumps straight down to the bottom. So all
Yeah.
you're seeing is kind regards, or
Call to action.
you're
Yeah.
missing the most important bit, which
Yeah.
is arguably is that first sentence, and
Yeah.
you don't see it. So it's a bad strategy anyway, and that, things like that just doesn't help whatsoever. I mean, I don't think I've ever responded to one.
No, I mean, I think potentially, and maybe I have on a couple of occasions. And I want to caveat what when I said it's a bad strategy. I think it's a bad strategy if that's all you're doing. If
Yeah.
you're also doing something at like a brand level, you're sort of creating value for your audience, and you're building a community, and you're getting people engaged. And then somebody sends me a cold message, I'm far more likely to read it and to potentially find it interesting or respond or whatever. But
Mm.
I've done in-mails as part of a sort of wider campaign, but the way that we decided to do it was build loads of, I guess, familiarity with our
Yeah.
audience, give them loads of value, and then invite them to something from an in-mail or something like that. And that's something that I think is you're far more likely to be successful at than if you just send a load of cold emails because you think, oh, well, we need to sell more products. So if we send 1,000 messages out, we might get 5 responses, and then we can go and sell to those people. I don't think I don't think it's a particularly good long-term way of building your pipeline, in my view. Yeah, it's a bit
No,
shit.
and why? I guess why do you think people always end up on doing in-mails? As in,
Yeah, I think, and it talks to a wider problem. I think, but from my perspective, I think it's a, and you see it quite often. Unfortunately, it happens. I think more often in B2B than it does into sort of direct to consumer businesses. Is that
mm,
people could jump into marketing maybe because they're not trained marketers, but they go straight into tactics. So
yeah,
they forget all of the let's do our research and let's work out who our audience is and build a strategy and then work out what we're going to do from a brand perspective and from a content perspective. And they just go right. Let's just send a load of emails out and send a load of emails out and see what comes back. And yeah, I think it's that it's that people jumping straight to tactics and
it
forgetting
falls
the
into
stuff
that
that comes
ad
before.
hoc marketing, doesn't it?
Yeah,
So I will just do
absolutely.
this, see how it goes.
Yeah, exactly. And that for me is maybe talks to another red flag, but it's always one of my red flags when I'm interviewing people is if they say what did you do at your last company that was successful, and they say I sent all this campaign out and did this and whatever, and they got this response. I want to know why you decided to do that in the first place. Like what was the thought process that took you from understanding your audience through to you know deciding that emails was the right way of doing it and the message that you sent. And I think I think it's a misunderstanding potentially of the role that marketing plays in the sort of overall commercial space.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it kind of relates to our next red flag quite nicely, I think. And unhinged sales processes. It's quite a
Yeah,
this could go anywhere.
yeah, it could,
Um,
and I think we potentially run the risk of just this being like a sales baiting podcast, and it's really not because, like I say, I'm an ex salesperson. I think the role of sales is so incredibly difficult. But the best salespeople that I've ever worked with are people that buy into the way that marketing works, and they say, "You do what you do best, and I'll go and do what I do best." And and ultimately, the role of marketers is to build pipeline and to help build those conversations. So they haven't got to do those really awful cold sales outreach stuff that nobody likes doing. In my experience, I've worked as a sort of SDR, like cold calling people and cold emailing people. I've worked as like a BDM consultant, like doing the sort of the um, further down the pipeline side of things. And nobody likes doing the cold side of things because it's awkward. You get on the phone to somebody and they know it's a cold call and they don't enjoy it anyway. So why don't you just let marketing do what they're great at, and you focus on what you're great at, which is building relationships and
yeah,
driving value.
but it's getting harder, isn't it? Now we all work from home.
Yeah,
When I was in the office many years ago, full time, I took calls a lot.
yeah,
People trying to sell me because they get through to reception, and yeah, you could be put through. But now I'm at home. No, you can't reach me via a phone number. You can only
yeah,
reach me via email. Um,
yeah, exactly.
to
So it
which I've
just
got
resorts to
thousands of
more and
million
more.
emails.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you know I think you see a combination now. I think of um, both cold sales in the traditional way that you used to see it, which is like a salesperson sitting there writing out emails, but also you see I think the gap being bridged because of that working from home problem, where you get marketing people who are asked to write cold sales emails and then they get sent out by salespeople, and you're like, this is obviously written by a marketer because of the way that it's written. Unless the salesperson happens to be a very good writer or whatever, but it seems like it's written by a marketing person, and it sort of doesn't serve either purpose at that point, and it just frustrates me because, say, as somebody that's done both the sales and marketing thing, I think it works best when everybody does what they're best at and what they're trained to do, and
Yeah,
again, it goes back to strategy. If your strategy is you're a sales orientated business and you hire 10 salespeople and one marketing person, then it's not likely that you're going to have a really good, really engaged pipeline. I
yeah.
might be wrong, but that's my experience of it.
That's when the marketer becomes like a servant to a sales team.
Yeah,
Of just like
absolutely.
this deck, or you hear that phrase of colouring in.
God,
Quite
yeah.
a
I
lot.
mean, that's one of my other red flags. Is if somebody asks me to make something pretty, I just want to bang my head against a wall. But yeah, because I'm one as a trained marketer, I'm not a designer,
Yeah,
and two, it's sort of dumbing down the work that creatives do. But
yeah,
yeah,
that's a good point actually, because I think I've experienced this quite a lot. Coming into new roles, especially in the early days, you get hired as a marketer, and a lot of people assume that you do the design stuff as well.
yeah,
It's like
yeah,
you should be able to do that. You're a marketer, whereas
yeah.
actually no.
It's weird. I think like actually marketing people need to do a better job at marketing what they do. Like because even when I talk to my friends, some of whom are in sort of professional roles, they still don't really understand. When I say to them, "Oh yeah, I'm in marketing," they're like, "Oh, can you design me a logo for my new business?" I'm like, "No, I'm not a designer. I'm a marketer." And they're like, "Oh, what do you do?" I'm like, "Okay." It's weird, but yeah, people assume they put the two things in the same bucket for some reason.
Yeah, it is weird. I think just sales sales alignment, just all in all, is massively crucial. I'm sure we'll do a whole episode on it
Yeah,
later down the line. But if you're looking for a quick win coming into any new business, or whether you're hiring an agency or hiring a new marketer, just looking at the sales and marketing alignment and the processes is such a quick win.
yeah,
You know,
100%.
we talk a lot about marketing. Sometimes it's a long term project if you want if you want to deliver something. But that's not necessarily the case with sales alignment. You can get some really quick wins. Even if it's just like a matter of helping them close more deals, or
Yeah, or
getting
even
more
just
feedback from them.
getting in
It's
the room.
huge.
Yeah,
Um, Next red flag. This is something my wife accuses me of quite a lot: is lack of listening.
yeah, yeah. Lack
Listening
of
to
listening.
customers, listening to stakeholders. There's a lot of there's the marketing. You need to have it. Ears to the ground quite a lot, don't you? Is there anything in particular that's been
Yeah,
pissed you off about around lack of listening?
for me, I think, and this goes back to something that my dad always used to say to me when I was younger. He always used to say to me, "You've got two ears, one mouth. Listen twice as much as you talk, and you'll do all right." And it's true. And I think it's as true in business as it is in anything. If you're not listening to your customers and trying to understand what they're saying to you, then you're not doing a particularly good job. And there's a challenge in that because a lot of people might say, "Well, our customers don't really give us feedback." Well, that's because you're not asking them to, or because you're not
Yeah,
giving them the avenues to do so. If you're running a tech business, it might be that you put together an ideation platform or something like that. There are tools out there that can do that to allow your customers to give you ideas. It might be that you get a cohort of customers that are really engaged in your product together, and you ask them for direct feedback on features or services or
mm,
communication challenges or whatever it might be. Um, but I think you have to actively listen and go to your customer base and say, we want to listen and we want to, ultimately it's about your business orientation. If you're orientated around your customers, as most businesses should be, then you need to listen and you need to show that you listen and then sort of develop and ideate for them. And I think
yeah,
that for me is the successful businesses that I've worked in do that extremely well and are laser focused on it, and the businesses that don't do it very well tend to be the businesses that I've been made redundant from. So yeah, you can or you will. Yeah,
yeah. I think a lot of businesses say they listen to customers and say they're customer centric, um,
mm,
when they're really not. They're all just doing it because they think it sounds good.
yeah,
We're customer centric. You're the heart of our business. It's a lot of bollocks most of the time.
yeah, It is. Yeah,
And I think,
without question. And it's not even. I think it's people sometimes just say things because they're platitudes, and they're like, yeah, we're just going to say this because it sounds good for brands. And you're like, but if you're not doing it, it's not actually good. Like, the best thing for brand is to do the things that you say you're going to do. Like that's pretty straightforward, I think. So
yeah, absolutely. And part of it goes down to building really great relationships with your customers. One thing I always ask when I come into a new role is, are there any really big fans of our product service that I can go
yeah,
and speak to? There's always one or two who are super helpful and
yeah,
absolutely love your brand. There's that go-to customer you can always rely on to say, "Oh, we're having a customer event. Do you want to speak?" And they'll be like, "Yes, absolutely, I'll do
yeah,
it." And those are the people that they're vested interest, especially in tech. When you're bringing in a bit of software, these people need to really buy into a brand because it's their neck on the line when they're bringing in big bit of software. And as in IT, you could be spending 2-3 million pounds
yeah,
on a bit of software. So if you get a chance to help them, they're going to do it. But a lot of people, a lot of customers don't necessarily have that great relationship. People don't work hard enough. It's all about moving on to just getting the next customer.
yeah,
So
yeah,
I mean,
100%.
that's
And that's
across
a
the whole
red flag in
business.
itself, isn't it?
Yeah, it is a red flag. It goes across the whole business from every touch point that customer might have around a business. You need to work on nurturing those relationships purely to get that hero. So when you need feedback or need someone to speak to, you've got that.
Yeah, 100%.
Another big one, and I feel like this is what you think of when you think of B2B marketing, boring comms, and just but boring in general, right? I think people would assume
Yeah,
that B2C is really creative and fun, and B2B is really boring. There are a lot of boring products in B2B, obviously,
yeah.
um, but that doesn't mean the comms need to match. Um,
No, I think also, I think that I have a bit of a bee in my bonnet about this one because I think boring means different things to different people. So, and ultimately, your job as a communicator is to make sure that the communications that you're delivering is right for your audience. So, if you're targeting CFOs, it needs to be valuable to CFOs. You might find that boring as a marketer because you're left brain rather than right brain, whichever way around it is. But they might find it really valuable and really interesting. So, boring, I think, quite often what you see marketers trying to be like other brands that are exciting and fun and whatever else. So they're like, oh, Monzo are sending everybody ice creams. We're going to do that. Or, I don't know, innocent, putting little woolly hats on their drinks. That's fun. That's really fun and interesting. We'll do something like that, and that will work for us. It doesn't work for you. It's about, who is your audience ultimately. They are the ones that determine whether or not something is boring or not. And I think it's something that it's a really weird analogy, maybe, but something I was saying to you the other day that ultimately I think from a brand strategy perspective, your role as a marketer is to to be the person that's putting on the party that people want to come to. And by association, you're cool to that audience. So if your audience is CFOs, you want to be put on the things that they want to attend and engage in and read and watch and whatever else, whatever that might be. And then by association, you're in that community and you're helping it. But I think, yeah, boring is subjective. I think is the main thing here. So we're not saying, I don't think, go out and throw loads of emojis on your comms and that will make you less boring, or use slang words that only sort of teenagers use these days, or whatever else that everybody else has to Google to try and work out what it means. Like, listen to your audience and then build communication for them that is engaging and fun, but to them.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the marketing team needs to be trusted, because I think if there are instances where let's say you are targeting CFO and it matches that you think you can be quite creative and quite fun, there's usually if you've not got the right trust internally, there's a CEO or someone that might say this isn't right, don't want to do this, and that's where it gets dampened down and does become boring.
Yeah.
So I think you need to build that trust. I don't know how you do that. Something that just a lot of the time, because it's like a chicken and egg. You want to prove that it works, but but you need to have that trust for them to allow you to have a go at doing it,
Yeah,
and to back it up.
yeah. You've got to test things ultimately, and know when you're taking things too far. I think ultimately, the role of the CEO or the co-founder is always going to be, to evaluate the risk of something. And if they see you as going too far, then they're going to scale you back. But I think if you sort of test and prove that it's working for whatever you decide working means, then you can do it. But I wouldn't suggest anybody just goes out and decides to just make things fun for them. I think you always have to put in the back of your head, who am I writing this for? Who am I trying to engage? And that's
It
what
goes back
determines what cool is or not.
lack of listening, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And everything else. I was going to go on to talk about A/B testing as a way of proving that, but it's a whole kettle of fish, that, because doing an A/B test it probably won't work, probably won't prove it a lot of the
Yeah.
time.
And it's also really difficult. I think the thing with A/B testing with stuff like that, especially in B2B, is quite often B2B companies are in a niche just by the very nature of what they do. So it's very difficult sometimes within a niche to test something and for it to be significantly distinct enough for you to be able to say that means good, that means bad. So A/B testing has its place, but I don't think it. I think you have to take it with a pinch of salt.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, these are all linking together quite nicely. I don't know if you found it or not, Dan.
It's almost like we planned this.
Dodgy websites. I presume you
Yeah.
mean dodgy in terms of the experience, not that you're going to get hacked by going onto it, or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just underinvestment more than anything. Like just because you offer a service business or you offer a solution that might not be the most modern thing in the world doesn't mean that your website can't be that. It should be a reflection of your brand and what you're trying to ultimately what you're trying to sell, but in an engaging way. It should be a place that your audience like to go to find that information and stuff. And I think your website is your storefront as a B2B marketer. I saw a meme the other day, and it was something like, you're the only salesperson that's working for you 24/7 is your website, and it's true. Providing you have it set up correctly and it's working, it's always there and it's doing a great job. So, I think it's underinvestment in websites predominantly.
It's always a funny one. People always complain that they're always putting the website as at fault. A lot of the time, if sales aren't closing, or if you're down anything, it's always all the website. So it's good to be able to eliminate that as a reason. If you can build a solid website, then you can focus on other problems. It's time consuming. It's expensive. Everything is slow with these dodgy websites because they're all often built badly, which is why they never change. Very quickly. So it's a good one. It's a big red flag. A lot of how much can you trust the facts and figures on there? Is it all made up? I've seen some wild statements in my time, and I look at it and go, how on earth have they got that? Are customer logos current customers or just previous customers? There's so much with B2B websites that you need to.
The other thing is like out of date content and stuff as well, though, isn't it? Like you can tell sometimes by going on somebody's website if they've not updated that in 2 years. Like the stats are all completely out of date. There's not a case study for the last 18 months or something like that. You're like, what are they doing here? Have they just got loads of unhappy customers, or are they not investing properly in comms and the website and stuff? So I think it quite often can be eye-opening both to a customer and to somebody that might be, you might be a marketer looking for a new job. You might go onto somebody's website and be like, oh my God, this website is awful. You could look at that one or two ways. Either I can help change this, or they're not investing properly in their website and their comms.
Yeah. That's a good point, actually. Just looking for new roles, is that a big red flag?
Yeah.
But customers will also look at it as well and think, how professional is this business? They'll judge a product, particularly in software, just by looking at the visual side of the website and looking, God, what must the product be like? Lots to unpack on websites. Google says that they're dead anyway, doesn't it? We don't need websites anymore. We don't want to send traffic to websites. We want to enter it all in the feed.
Yeah, I mean, every other day Google says something's dead, or I don't believe it personally. I think the fundamentals still work. So invest in them.
Yeah, absolutely. A couple more red flags before we move on to the next section. Building for them, not building for the community.
Yeah, I think this goes back to your content strategy. I think for me, so it's about, are you doing what you think is best, or are you doing what your customers truly want? So it's about listening. You know, it goes, I think, to um, potentially when you're a new marketer in role, and you're looking at your market and you're doing your research and you're working out, what value you can bring to them. I think there at that point you have to make a decision of, are we building the sort of marketing machine, if you like, our brand and our comms and everything else, to deliver and add value to our community, or are we doing it because we think it's interesting?
Yeah,
And ultimately, for me, you always have to build value for customers. There's a love him or hate him, and this, and people do. I think Gary Vaynerchuk is right about the way that you develop content strategy, which is jab, 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 right hook. So
yeah,
you provide tons of value up front for free at scale, and you don't expect anything back from it. And then when you do deliver something that's got, is a right hook, is a more sales orientated piece of content, you've got that audience, that community that you've built up already that are going to be engaging with it. And I've done that and I've seen it work. So I think, for me, that's a fundamental. It's about content strategy for me.
yeah. Time and time again. And I think this is where saying no as a marketer is a really invaluable skill,
Yeah,
because you'll get loads of, in the big business, you get loads of people coming to you saying, "Oh, I've had a really great idea for a piece of content," or "Oh, we should do something on this," or we should get an update out on this. And you have to sit there and go, "Does that customer really care about this, or do you want it out?"
yeah,
So just to be able to say, "No, sorry, it doesn't fit in with our strategy.
yeah,
This is what we're doing. It doesn't fit into it. So sorry, I'm not doing it."
100%.
Or
Yeah,
be more polite and say, "Oh, we'll put it on the back burner for now," which is
yeah.
marketing
I'll have a
translation.
look at that.
No.
Yeah, and sometimes it's like trend hopping, and it does happen that people get excited, and when they get excited about something, they push it towards the marketing department because they're like, those guys are maverick thinkers. Let's just give them a problem to solve. And you're like, are we just writing something about AI because everybody's writing something about AI, or are we doing something because our customers really want it? That's for me what you have to fall back on is, they say, the fundamentals: put together your strategy, get it signed off, and then stick to it.
Yeah,
And
and I think this kind of loops into my next point as well. So we carry on talking about it, and it's just ad hoc marketing. I think I wasn't
yeah,
aware of the. I think someone mentioned it on LinkedIn a couple months ago. I was like, yeah, I really like that ad hoc marketing.
mm,
And, just doing random things that aren't really aligned to that strategy, just
yeah,
because you seem to be doing stuff. Lots of input, but it's time consuming. It rarely you're really going to get anything from it, and it looks haphazard. And
yeah,
I've seen it time and time again. And I've caught myself doing it. In early days, I've just said yes to random. Oh, let's do this, and it's just become. It looks messy.
yeah.
And we need
It's
to try
it,
and eliminate ad hoc marketing
yeah.
altogether. So I think
It's
that's going to be
fundamentally,
a lot of
man.
what we talk about in some coming episodes. I think we should do a full episode on examples of ad hoc marketing. It's a bit more
Mm,
detail. I think that'd be quite cool. Some
yeah.
people might not realise that they're ad hoc marketers.
No, they might not. No, you're 100% right. And I think it goes back to that problem of like doing tactics before you've diagnosed the problem. And yeah, people do it all the time. You see it so much. Marketers just doing random things because it's the trend thing to do, or because they've been told to by their boss, or they think they should be doing. Activity means I'm doing something. But yeah,
Yeah. Why
it's
aren't we
such a
doing email? Why aren't we doing this?
yeah.
You'll be rushed to do it.
Yeah,
So just
the one that I always hear whenever I speak to like founders or like CEOs or something like that is, "Oh, my marketing department trying to get me to do TikTok." Like, yeah, because they're idiots. That's why. Like, I'm sorry, but like, unless you've got a fundamental reason to be doing TikTok, you shouldn't do it. Like, don't do it just because you're going to go and do a funny dance.
yeah,
Not everybody's got the budget and the resources to be able to do another social channel really, really well. Um,
absolutely. Yeah, I'd rather do one well, and it's in B2B. It's usually LinkedIn, so I'd rather do LinkedIn well, get it working, and then
yeah, and
look at
try. Yeah,
adjusting.
where's your audience? If you can prove that your audience is on TikTok and they want that, then do it. But if they're not, then don't do it. Like, but I don't agree, by the way, that it's never right, and that it's only young people that are on TikTok or whatever. But I think you just have to have a very good reason to try something like that. And generally it becomes a red flag because it's like, oh, it's the latest thing to do. And, my friend that works for Gymshark does TikTok. And you're like, well, yeah, but good for them. But like, that's because their audience is on that platform. Like, doesn't mean that you should do it because you're selling HR software. Like,
Yeah.
it's a very different market.
Yeah, I think because people have like one good idea for a post, and they go, "Oh, that will work really well," and it might,
Yeah.
but you need consistency on that
Yeah.
platform. So yeah, it's a whole thing. Red flags done. I mean, we only really touched the surface there. I think if we really sat down, we could pull up hundreds and hundreds of red flags, which is quite concerning. But yeah, kind of, it's the kind of the, as you mentioned at the beginning, it's kind of why we're doing Brandtale, is to try and get rid of these
Yeah.
red flags for as many businesses as possible. When you work in house, it's fantastic, but you're only helping one business. And we just want to help as many people as possible because there's a real
Yeah.
issue, and there's lots of things missing for B2B. And I think we're going to go into a couple of things that are missing in B2B at the moment. We might have touched on these already slightly. Lack of creativity. That kind of
Mm.
links into that, boring comms. I think people do the same things over and over again. I know a lot of marketers will have like a playbook,
Yeah.
and they'll just go from job to job. Oh well, it worked at my previous company, and just going through the motions rather than looking at a problem,
Yeah.
analyzing it, really, understanding your industry and thinking how you can best get through to them. And that's where lack of creativity is really killing results, and
Yeah.
stopping marketers from and businesses from getting to where they need to be. Because there's so many businesses I look at and think, God, why are you only here? You could be so much further ahead.
Yeah. Yeah.
um,
Definitely.
I think
Yeah,
that's
they're
a
not
big
doing
issue.
anything different. I think it's about it goes back to storytelling. I think, and I think that the job of your market department obviously is to drive growth for your business, but it's also to tell the story of your business. You might be a founder led organization that spotted worked in the sector for a long time, spotted a problem, decided to start a business or whatever else. If no one's telling that story, it's not going to resonate with people. And if you've got a product that's fundamentally different to your competitors, maybe, and you're finding it challenging, like how do we get this point across to our customers? How do we explain to the market that our solution is very different and it's different because of this reason and it solves these problems? That's storytelling, and that's about creativity. So I think it's one of those things that I know marketers struggle with to get investment in because quite often boards look at it and they're like, but what value is that driving me? Like, what growth is that? How can I attach an MQL target to that piece of activity?
Mm.
The honest answer is you can't. Sort of have to trust the long and the short of it as a process. And there are ways in which you can develop a storytelling strategy to eventually drive growth for you, but it shouldn't be your ultimate goal. I think I think it's a bit of a problem when that marketers face when they're trying to get investment for these types of things.
Mm.
Again, we might do a longer session on this about how they do that and how they explain the value of brand marketing and storytelling and everything else. But I think ultimately that's what it's about for me, is how are you telling your story to your market and making sure that you're seen as being different in the marketplace.
Yeah, because I mean, it's competition right now. It's in every industry pretty much. It's incredibly, incredibly competitive. So
Yeah,
how do you stand out? And brand strategy, it is that, because everyone's got the same features, pricing is all very similar. There has
exactly.
to be a differentiator, and that story plays such a key role. So yeah, looking forward to diving into that one a bit more. Um,
Yeah.
this kind of links into the next one again: disconnection from community.
Yeah. I think community for me has always meant, you can't own a community. And I think people say that sometimes, like, oh, we're starting a community, or this is our community. Like, you don't own it. It's not yours.
No.
It exists because of the market or because of shared problems. Say if your CFOs are dealing with similar challenges to your colleagues at other organizations, there is a community of people that are having shared problems and trying to solve them for whatever
Mm.
reason. Um, I think the role of a brand in that space is to give them value and help them solve those problems, either through technology or through thought leadership or whatever that might be. And I think you should not be scared to play a part in that community and try and help it. I think generally, I think that's the issue, is that brands, for whatever reason, don't want to jump in and play with them, and and start having conversations with them. I don't really understand why, but they don't. They seem reluctant to do so, and I think that's the problem. You need to get connected and embed yourself within that community and listen and build for them.
Yeah, truly become part of the community as a contributor,
Yeah.
not someone who's just trying to flog stuff.
Yeah, exactly. That is it in a nutshell. It's like, otherwise you're seen as, oh, here comes Scott again with his bag of tricks, just trying to sell me something.
Yeah,
You're like, no, I'm not with a bag of tricks this time. Here, today I'm with a talk or a piece of content that's going to really help you. Or, Dave over there was doing something, and you told me you had a similar problem, so let's put you guys together and you can solve those problems. I don't want anything for it. I just wanted to put you guys together. That's what community building is about. Doing it for the right reasons.
I'm going to group the next two together because I feel like they're aligned. But tell me if I'm wrong. Lack of direction and goal alignment, I think it's the big thing that's missing in B2B.
Yeah. So goal alignment, I guess we mean pipeline, and what is it that you're doing as a marketing team? What are you focused on? A boss that always used to say to me, if what you measure, you improve. So I think what are you deciding to focus on from a goal perspective? It goes back to one of the points that we were talking about earlier, which is quite often you work with agencies and they're focused on impressions and the number of people they drive to a website through keywords that they're optimizing for and things like that, but they're not helping you focus on the things that your boss has decided is the most important thing for you. So revenue growth or pipeline growth or whatever else. So I think it's a couple of different things. It's about making sure you've got a really clear idea of what your goals are and why your activity is driving those goals. And then having really clear direction is about, again, making sure that picture is extremely clear, and that all of the major stakeholders that might be above, below, next to you are all sort of aligned to that piece and helping to drive that picture along. That's your role, I guess, as a sort of more senior marketer. That's your sort of role to play.
Yeah, absolutely. It guides everything, doesn't it? I think a lot of businesses now follow the OKR sort of framework, per quarter, and all kind of filters down the objectives, key results, and the actions are going to flow up to support that. And I think that helps marketers say no and to stay focused, because this is the goal, this is the direction that things are going. So if it doesn't support that, then we're not doing it. Something I do, I love a Kanban board. Love project management tool. I'll tag the shit out of everything just so I can filter it. And something I always put on there is the goals. So every task, anything I do, has to relate. Has to be able to tag it as a goal. Or something that we're moving towards. And that's really helped me over the last sort of 5 years doing that. And just
keep yourself focused.
Can't tag it as a OKR or a goal. I'm not doing it.
Yeah. And I guess goes back to, like you say, saying no to things that are, can we just do this, or can we just do this thing or whatever? Like, no, we can if it's going to link to the goals of the business and direction we've agreed. Otherwise, I need a very good reason to stop all of that stuff and do this. Quite often you find that I think marketing teams, this might be slightly controversial, but marketing teams I think more than others tend to be quite under-resourced. I think it's quite common to have a solo marketer working in a company that is maybe 30, 40 people, and they're the only marketing person in that company. I think, if that situation explains you, I feel for you. I've been that person. But you have to get very good at saying no in that situation, because you have to be really clear on this is what I'm delivering. This is not what I'm doing. I'm not just the yes person that's just going to jump when you say how high when you say jump. So, I think, when you're that person, you have to have extremely clear goals and extremely clear direction, and it be crystal.
Yeah, big time. Yeah, I mean, I've been that marketer pretty much in every role
Yeah,
I've been in. It's tricky. Even when I think marketing is seen as a bit of a luxury. I think during the COVID lockdown, one of the first departments that gets looked at is marketing. They're sitting there with a big budget, even though you tie it all back to revenue and growth. You're
yeah,
still seen as something that you can just trim because I think businesses
it's
think,
mad,
oh
isn't
yeah,
it?
we can definitely survive with the sales team. They can do it all, but we could get rid of marketing, and
Yeah,
then
it's
we'll
weird.
just carry on as normal. We're generating this now, so we'll
Yeah,
carry on generating it, and it's just not it's not the truth. And even when you are, I've gone through exceptional growth as a marketer in terms of what we've delivered to a pipeline, and yet sometimes when you say we need to expand the team, we can deliver more, it's still a oh no, you can just do more with less, or
yeah.
it's such a bizarre
It's a really weird thing.
situation
I
to be
think
in.
it's it is. I think it's sometimes it's because marketers aren't very good at tying back the work they do to the overall business strategy.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think if you can do that, then most founders, most very senior C-suite people that I've worked with would invest in you if they understand why. If
yeah,
you can explain to them, this is the work we're doing, this is what it's driving for you, this is the results that we're doing. If we get an extra person, we can do this. Then they'd be like, yeah, fine, let's go and spend that money and get an additional person. But I think if you just say you want an extra person because you're busy, sometimes that's misinterpreted as you're not working as hard or whatever it might be. But
mm,
um, yeah, I think marketers just have to. We sometimes shoot ourselves in the foot. I think we can do a better job at explaining what we do for
yeah,
companies.
yeah. We do. Yeah, there are some tricky scenarios, definitely. I think
Yeah,
one one event I'll always remember. Did a fantastic year of growth. I can't remember the exact percentages of what we achieved. We had a fairly decent marketing budget, um, and because we'd had such exceptional growth, the targets we were set for next year were absolutely mind-boggling. It was
yeah,
you look at it and think, how on earth have we been set these targets? And then I said, oh, okay, because I very easily was able to work out, cost per lead, cost per conversion. It was all there on paper,
yeah,
beautifully laid out. So I said, oh, well, to get that, I'll need this marketing budget. I said, no, you've got the same marketing budget. Go
yeah,
back on. And I said, I'm sure there might be some optimizations we can make here or there to try and improve things, but even doing that next year, I'll be hitting this. So that's that's kind of the achievable target. If you want to
yeah,
hit that, you need to invest more, and we'll hit it because we've
yeah,
proven that we can hit it. But
yeah.
but
It's
even when it's
crazy.
super 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 clear, sometimes certain founders and owners might not get it. It's only happened to me once. Everywhere else, the message has been well received.
Yeah, yeah. I think I've been very lucky. The last place I worked was they were very good. My boss really understood the value of marketing, which really helped. He got it and was interested in it. So he read marketing things and listened. The thing that he hated the most, I think, was he called it wankiness, but it's basically just like marketing fluff. So it's just like when you go into a meeting with them and you're like explaining why we want to invest more money in brand strategy, and you're using terms that marketers might use, he just goes like, oh. I just know I don't. Just talk to me in plain English, and I can understand. I can understand it, and I can have a conversation with you about it. But you're just using fluff for the sake of it, and that I guess that helped me be really direct
Yeah,
because that's what I knew that he wanted. He wanted really, really direct an understanding of what we're trying to do, why we're trying to do it, and what he's going to get out of it. And that I
yeah,
think most founders like that. Really, they just want really directness. What
yeah,
are you doing?
absolutely.
Why are you doing it?
So very quickly moving into a sales pitch. If you're a founder and
Yeah,
that's how you like to communicate and your marketing needs help, Dan and I are here.
yeah,
We won't plug it
yeah.
anymore. I promise.
Yeah, we're used to directness. I think, yeah, yeah, yeah. You have to have thick skin in marketing, don't you? Because a lot of people don't understand what we do anyway. So,
Yeah,
yeah,
and everyone
a
has.
founder telling me I'm being wanky is I'm more than happy with that. That's fine.
Yeah, fantastic. We haven't got any noted down um, bullet points on B2B moving forward. Is there anything else, Dan, that I think is missing? I think one thing I think is missing from B2B is education. I think a
Mm.
lot of people end up in B2B marketing just by chance, and I don't feel there is loads of information out there, but
Yeah.
I don't think marketers are being educated well enough in B2B. Even if you go through the Chartered Institute of Marketing, it's very B2C,
Yeah.
incredibly B2C. Any sort of degrees, all B2C really, with slight touches on B2B, and it's so complex. And we've already touched on a number of red flags and things that are missing.
Hmm.
And this is all stuff you can pick up from decent education. Obviously, it's one of the things we want to try and help with this podcast is just proper
Yeah.
education from client side, marketers. Um, but I think that's one of the biggest issues in just B2B.
Yeah.
It's just marketers coming in and they're just not prepared. There's not enough education.
Yeah. Yeah. It's one of the things that I think I see quite often is like, interviewing graduates and stuff. Quite often they're educated in marketing and they have a really good understanding of how digital marketing works and what its role is within the
Mm,
business and all the rest of it. But when you sort of when they're challenged on but what if that didn't work? What else would we do to
yeah,
drive this net result? It's challenging for them to think of an answer because they're not necessarily maybe at that stage where they're thinking sort of laterally enough to be able to answer the problem in a different way.
yeah,
I think
yeah.
that's maybe about experience more than anything. But
I
yeah, there's
think,
some really interesting resources out there that HubSpot
yeah,
put together. They put together some good resources, and there's some good podcasts and stuff like the
yeah,
Uncensored CMO is a pretty good one,
yeah.
and
I think you say
Marketing Reset's
experience
pretty
as
good.
well. Might be part of it, but I think LinkedIn released a state of marketing report for 2024, and I'll put a link in the comments. But for CMOs and extremely senior marketers, one of the
Yeah,
areas that they needed help with, and it's in the report, is brand and brand strategy. And even
yeah,
at their level, 30 years in marketing, they still need help with such a core element
yeah.
of B2B marketing.
It's mad. It's still a really underinvested and misunderstood area of marketing, especially B2B marketing, more so than direct to consumer marketing. You see wonderful stuff happening in the sort of direct to consumer space, but in B2B, it's very rare that you would see a brand campaign. There are brands that do it and do it extremely well. They tend to have very big budgets, and they tend to do it very well as a result of that. And they're following a similar framework, if you like, to sort of direct to consumer brands. But there's loads that brands. If you're a B2B focused brand strategist, there's loads that you can do that I'm sure we're going to dive into in this podcast in the sort of weeks and months to come. But
Yeah,
it's an untapped thing for marketers, I think.
yeah, big time. All right, well, I think that brings a nice close to the first ever episode of B2B Unplugged. I hope you've enjoyed it. We are going to get better at this. It's our very first one. We've jumped on. Um, we're going to take away loads from this experience. We'll drop our contact details in the description. If you have any feedback or want us to talk about anything, feel free to get in contact. If you want to come on the podcast to talk about something, feel free to pitch it. We do intend to invite some specialists on to join in the
Yeah,
conversation, and to get involved. And we're really excited to see where this podcast is going to go. We know there's loads of podcasts out there. I've been quite open about it on LinkedIn. I've listened to hundreds of them, and I've never found one that I've really wanted to, make part of my routine or become a regular listener to. So I've got to really be in my bonnet about making this podcast one of those ones
yeah.
that's going to stick and be loved by the people. So yeah, any feedback would be great. But yeah, from me, thanks for listening. And yeah, see you on episode 2.
Thank you.